Divine Affliction, the intersection of gender and music production, is a creative practice-led research project in the field of music production, investigating the representation of female producers in the field and the feminine aesthetics in music production. These two terms, divine and affliction, describe my experience with the intersection of gender and music production. Divine describes the feminine aesthetics of music production, and affliction I attribute to the representation of female producers in the field. Wolf states that female producers are marked primarily for their absence in the field and have been under-researched, along with analysis of their practice. By exploring established ideas about music production, gender, identity, reflexivity, subjectivity, and culture, this study contributes substantial research on the female producer and her practice. With this project, I argue that the feminine aesthetics of music production are different than a masculine aesthetic, but of equal value musically and technically. With the words of MacArthur, moreover, it becomes obvious that I want to demonstrate its difference in order to celebrate its worth. On the other hand, it is apparent that I am painfully aware of the deficiencies involved in such an argument. These deficiencies are formed from outdated patriarchal assumptions, which I believe can be impacted through media representations of females in this environment and a reconstruction of music production discourse with a feminine vernacular, based in inclusivity. Mills states feminist work has been active in bringing about change in representational practices through critique, through teaching, and through developing new models of writing practice. These constitute the aim of this study, to develop knowledge on the feminine aesthetics of music production and critique the afflictions with a feminine perception through a feminine lens, creating a representation of a female producer in this environment and providing a pedagogical source of access to music production for females through this process. This project is situated within a feminist paradigm, drawing upon feminist theory as defined by Schultz. This project is designed with a mixed method approach, which triangulates ethnography, practice, and theory in order to provide validity to my arguments on the feminine aesthetics of music production and the representation of female producers in the culture of music production. This practice-led research project has a creative component in cohesion with an academic component. This project was conceived from my own experiences of divinity and affliction with my practice of music production and the intersection of gender and music production. I have been investigating the idea that women are underrepresented and women have a unique aesthetic in music production. My experiences are an autoethnographic rationalisation of the project. This led to an extensive literature survey, theorising how gender affects my creative practice and product, representationally and aesthetically. The theoretical paradigms within which I am working are explored through the analysis of secondary texts. The exploration of these concepts then led into research on creative practice, producing an album titled Divine Affliction. I investigated how being a female affects my creative practice and my creative product aesthetically. The album is a representation of the female process to music production and illustrates the feminine aesthetic in music production. I completed autoethnographic reflections along with reflections on my creative practice during this process. These reflections are published in a series of blogs, which also serve the purpose of being a pedagogical tool for females on music production, deconstructing the creative process of producing the album. The practitioner reflections situate this study and provide impetus for further action. I then conducted ethnographic interviews with several other female producers in the field regarding their feelings and experience of representation in music production, along with their thoughts on the feminine aesthetics to their music production. The interviews provide a translocal perspective, with both exploration on studio producers and artist-producer DJs, describing the feminine culture of music production through subjective parallel narratives of females' processes and experiences, exploring and critiquing social constructs, practices, individual attitudes, behaviours and values, connecting my autobiographical story to a wider cultural, social, and political understandings of the female producer and her experience. These ethnographic interviews serve as a way to confirm that this experience was not just singular, but has a translocal resonance with other females' experiences, and as a way to build community and get solidarity within our minority in the industry, transforming my experience into a prevailing experience of the female producer in this context, legitimising my arguments and practitioner reflections. This allows for a comprehensive view on the female producer from her perspective. I support the two theoretical concepts of the feminine aesthetics of music production and the representation of female producers through ethnography, practice, and literature. The output of these three approaches to gaining information has been the literature is a theoretical contribution to the fields of popular musicology, cultural sociology, and feminist theory. The output of the ethnography is building community, solidarity, and to articulate the theoretical knowledge and get validation from a translocal perspective, justifying my experiences and inquiry through parallel subjective narratives. The album has been about the practice of music production, illustrating the feminine aesthetics and representing a female in this culture, along with gaining reflections on my practice through this process, and developed pedagogical resources on music production for other women through the reflection process. There is also the artistic contribution of the music. The academic aspects of this work are documented in the exegesis. The role of the exegesis is to provide a space to have theoretical discussions on the representation of female producers and the feminine aesthetics of female music production. The theory has been generated through the data collected from the literature review, ethnographic narratives, autoethnographic reflections, and artistic practice reflections. Within the written documentation, there are discrete elements that present genuine knowledge contributions to the field, particularly those theorising the feminine aesthetics of music production, as well as providing more context to translocal experiences of female music producers. The exegesis serves as an explanation to the project, underpinning the project as the culmination of all my thinking. It is a manual for the project, providing an overview and rationale of the project, a justification of the research method and design. It contains the theoretical discussions, documents the process and outcomes of the research, along with the future recommendations. The creative practice is in the field of music production, with the production of album Divine Affliction. The creative practice embraces the do-it-yourself ethos. I would like to make note that DIY also constitutes collaboration with your creative community. For example, I have composed all the lyrical content for the album, but I work with vocalists to sing some of the lyrics, and I work with photographers for the promotional images, along with a mastering engineer for professional practice. Feminist DIY has been a major access point for women to create music. The album, Divine Affliction, is an expression of the feminine aesthetic in music. It is a sonic portrayal of the duality of divinity and affliction, a journey through the female experience. This album presents an oral representation of the female process and application to music production. The musical compositions are inspired by the preliminary research and my own autobiographical experiences. The album is a shorter album consisting of 7 songs and would be defined in the experimental pop genre, with raw, introspective, brooding, emotive music. The album is a reflective lens of the project, where I gain research data from knowledge gained from the artistic practice. The album also serves as an educational tool to music production for females. Due to the underrepresentation of female producers in the field and barriers in accessibility to music production this creates for females, I have deconstructed my music-making process in the medium of blogs. These blogs are a creative pedagogical text called Divine Affliction Perception Through a Feminine Lens. They are a source of education that provides access to music production for females, representing a female producer in the realm of music production. The blogs serve 2 purposes. They are informative and reflective. They give an informative, reflexive view behind the production of the album, focusing on the creative process, and as a platform for me to publish my autoethnographic and artist research reflections that form knowledge presented in the exegetical text. These blogs are published on Medium along with my website. I have also been working on a short poetic documentary called Divine Affliction to be released on YouTube the same day as the album. It covers audio segments of the songs and a short autoethnographic account on the intersectionality of gender and music production. The poetic documentary situates the research problem, articulating the concepts of the divine and afflicting intersections of gender and music production, serving as an autoethnographical contextualization and artistic rationale for the project. The poetic documentary, blogs, and video tutorials are a way of connecting people through being published via online networks. They illustrate the feminine aesthetics of music production and use representational theories to create media representations of a female in this environment, addressing the afflicting intersections of gender and music production. They are also a source of marketing and promotional material for the album. This project is not just about the making of an album. It is about the becoming of a female producer. This struggle is still underway. I intend to extend the scope of the work to continue these conversations and remain connected to the creative community established in this project. This project has inspired intentions for further ethnographic research, reconnecting with the female producers to do further research into the feminine aesthetics of music production.